Bonjour, France. Welcome back to the channel, guys. We're going to be checking out a video about the Gauls. So it's called Rethinking the Gauls, a Civilized Society Before the Romans. This is actually interesting because I just watched the second Gladiator movie, the new one that just came out, which, by the way, absolutely amazing. One of the people in there they mentioned was like, oh, he's from Gaul. And it was just like, oh, that's cool. Just because I was thinking about the Gauls, 'cause I knew I was doing this video today and everything. But anyways, yeah, Gaul is where modern day France is, basically, for the most part. And they were called Gauls back in the day. We're going to learn about it. I've watched a couple things about the Gauls before, and definitely interesting. Links down below for the original video. Witness is the name of the channel. And go over there and check out the original video and hit like on that. So check it out. Thanks for watching.
The Gauls are considered by many as the last remaining trace of the prehistoric world. The lack of architectural legacy or written history about them has led to the creation of a myth, that of their distant ancestors, uncouth barbarians whose natures have remained unchanged since the dawn of time. This wild paradise is said to have wreaked havoc on the Roman invasions. But what if a major civilization was hiding behind this outdated view?
Love archaeological stuff. Super cool.
The latest archaeological discoveries have revealed that over 2,000 years ago, the Gauls were feared warriors, but they were also successful farmers, skilled craftsmen, and talented artists.
Well, I mean, any society would you definitely have all of it. You always hear about like the armies of this nation, the armies of that nation. No, it's more than just armies. Who do you think supplies the army? You got to have farmers, you got to have blacksmiths, etc., etc.
Scientists use even the smallest of clues to try to fill the last remaining gaps in our knowledge. Forgotten for more than 2 millennia, the Gauls, one of the greatest populations of Celtic Europe, now reveal their true face.
I think they were taking core samples back there. Seon et Leor.
Beginning our investigation from the sky seems almost paradoxical. But it is from these heights that the Gallic civilization emerges in all of its splendor. From 300 feet, the first signs of a Gallic existence start to appear.
What, this ridgeline, or this little hill?
Voilà, par exemple, ici, une ferme quadrangulaire.
That's interesting. So I've seen overhead views of places, and you can see impressions of stuff, right? Foundational work, stuff like that you can only see from the air. This looks like the wheat is literally a different color. Is it because the foundations in that area absorb water differently than the dirt around it, so the moisture level's different, leading to a different color of the grain? I would assume. That's the only thing I can think of. That's incredible. Or the minerals in the stonework or in the masonry blocks that they used. Maybe there's a lot of potassium or a lot of whatever minerals, right? That's leading to a different growth pattern in the wheat. Sorry, I'm overanalyzing, but it's so mind-blowing and interesting to me.
Donc ce genre de ferme, on en a à peu près tous les 500, tous les 1000 mètres. C'est des fermes gauloises très caractéristiques avec ces fossés emboîtés. On a certainement une partie qui est réservée à l'habitation et puis autour des fossés qui servaient à délimiter les parcelles cultivées ou celles où paissaient les animaux, le grand bétail.
That's so cool.
Aerial archaeology debunks a popular myth, the belief that Gaul was populated by hunters living under the cover of an impenetrable forest. In the early 80s, a new revolution was approaching the Gallic world.
All right.
In the 2nd century BC, the Lemovisis territory was located in the modern region of Limousin. At present, an entirely reconstructed Gallic village can be found here.
Oh, cool.
A group of archaeological specialists from the CNRS and INRAP oversaw its construction. Over the
That's
course
super
of its
cool.
construction, different types of materials were tested, including the same tools used during the Gallic era, their building techniques, and their ancient methods. Little by little, the Gallic builders' technical expertise has come to light before our very eyes.
Reminds me of that castle that's being built, also I think in France, isn't it? And using primitive stuff and everything, and it's been 20 or 30 years so far. I can't remember for sure, but somebody knows about it. If you could let us know, that'd be amazing.
Archaeologists believe that wooden tiles, commonly known as roof shingles, were employed throughout certain regions. However,
Okay.
thatched roofs were undoubtedly the more common alternative. The latest scientific investigations affirm that the Gallic construction methods were very advanced. Their techniques were still used in our countrysides until very recently.
And there's still
In the Gallic
thatched
era,
roofs.
the deafening thud of axes chopping down tree trunks is somewhat of a resounding echo throughout the forests. Wood is an essential resource for all of the Gallic populations. The needs of each village are considerable. The forests are placed under attack, and the slenderest boles with the best diameters are sought out. These trunks form the basis of all of their building work.
Nice.
The
They took that
Gallic
tree-
civilization is heavily dependent on wood.
Man, they took that tree down like champs, man.
Gallic craftsmen excel in the use of it. Wood is not only used for construction purposes, it is also imperative for heating, crafting, and even for building the ramparts protecting the towns.
And I know ramparts are walls now. They're defensive walls. I guess in a couple videos I didn't know what they were. I don't know if it was on this channel or on my main one, but I got corrected. I understand that ramparts are defensive walls. So we're clear now.
The effects of this are quickly visible on the immediate environment around the Gallic farms and settlements. The forest slowly starts to lose terrain. Archaeologists use new disciplines to find out the extent of the opening within the forest canopy.
Oh, so are these openings? So are there still openings now because they cleared the forest? Wouldn't it grow back, or is it just because the forest itself has to be there for it to grow back because the seeds from the trees has to fall to replenish new ones? And if you just go that long without trees, then there wouldn't be there to replenish except for random birds that drop seeds by when they fly by. Wow. Very cool.
Isabelle Geoffroy is a palynologist. She collects and analyzes the pollen that has accumulated inside the land's geological layers over several centuries.
That's
On
what the
site,
course-
it all begins with a coring process which is carried out on a specific terrain known as peatland.
Okay, yeah, that's what they're for then. I was wondering what they were doing core samples for, but
Alors les tourbières, comme les fonds de lac, sont ce qu'on appelle des archives naturelles. C'est-à-dire qu'au cours du temps, au cours de leur formation, elles vont capter des bioindicateurs, et notamment des grains de pollen qui vont être émis par la végétation environnante, qui dans ce type de milieu spécifique, anaérobie, vont pouvoir se conserver des milliers, voire des dizaines de milliers d'années.
wow.
Fais attention au doigt. Et voilà, belle carotte de tourbière.
Okay, so
Isabelle-
that opening in the trees was not because of a village necessarily. It's just marshland for the core sample. Okay.
Isabelle Geoffroy collects these types of samples throughout the territory. Her aim is to create a precise map of the plant environment and its development over the centuries.
En fait, il faut imaginer que chaque couche ici de tourbes accumulées est un peu un livre d'histoire de la végétation dans le temps, où en fait chaque échantillon ici que je vais prélever est une page de cette histoire. Et c'est le métier du palynologue en fait de savoir décrypter à l'aide des grains de pollen prélevés et conservés dans ces sédiments, de reconstituer l'histoire de la végétation.
Very cool.
Today, Isabelle is analyzing a peat sample which corresponds to a period in which the Gallic landscape is becoming agricultural.
Dans cette lame ici qui est datée du IIe siècle avant notre ère, on a des grains de pollen qui évoquent la forêt environnante, qui est toujours là, hein, comme ici, ce pollen de chêne, ou ce que l'on va avoir aussi très caractéristique, le grain de pollen de hêtre, tout rond.
Signs of human activity quickly begin to multiply inside the sample.
Alors ici, c'en est peut-être une aussi. Donc voilà, ce grain de pollen ici de céréales. Alors voilà,
pollen.
ici, j'ai un autre indicateur de la présence de bétail, cette fois. Vous voyez, ici, c'est une spore de champignons qui va pousser sur les déjections d'herbivores. Et leur augmentation est un très bon indicateur de la présence de bétail à proximité de la zone.
That's cool.
Les analyses palynologiques indiquent clairement que cette image du Gaulois qui vit dans une forêt originelle complètement fermée est aujourd'hui complètement dépassée et à oublier.
I feel like a lot of history is wrong, though. It really is, because I mean, there's only so much you can speculate on with the evidence that you have, and sometimes they kind of go with it. You know what I'm saying?
The investigations carried out by palynologists confirm the observations made by aerial archaeology. Several centuries BC, the Gauls acquired vast expanses of land in the natural environment and progressively became farmers and herdsmen.
Right. They're figuring it out.
Our knowledge of the evolution of the Gallic landscape is developing. In the years BC, their landscapes are quite similar to ours today. The Gallic countrysides were a mosaic of vast fields and pastures, regularly broken up by farms of different sizes. We head towards the Arverni territory, situated in the middle of the Massif Central. We fly over the Coron Plateau, an exceptional archaeological site located in the heart of the Chêne des Puys volcanic chain. Here, the reduced acidity rate of the volcanic soil guarantees an impressive preservation of certain waste materials. Archaeologist Mathieu Pou and his team are searching through the waste containers of history.
Heck yeah. This is super interesting.
Cette poubelle a déjà livré un grand nombre d'ossements animaux. Et l'analyse, l'étude de ces ossements animaux, qui va être réalisée par un spécialiste, un archéologue, est tout à fait intéressante puisque on a affaire à des animaux qui sont tout à fait différents, des parties animales différentes. Il s'agit bien de déchets de boucherie. On a parfois des traces de couteaux qui montrent que les os ont été sectionnés avec un grand couteau en fer. Et puis on a toutes sortes d'espèces, du bœuf ici, une canine de porc probablement, une petite corne de chèvre. Donc on a affaire à quelque chose de tout à fait classique, ce qu'on appelle la triade domestique. Les principaux animaux consommés, c'est le bœuf, la vache, le porc.
Under the archaeologists' trowels, the Gauls' true eating habits are revealed. Another myth is shattered.
Les poubelles gauloises, quand on les analyse, eh bien, battent complètement en brèche cette image du Gaulois mangeur de sanglier qui vit dans la forêt, qui vit des ressources de la forêt, puisque du sanglier, dans une fosse comme celle-ci, on n'en trouve pas. C'est tout à fait exceptionnel.
Evidently,
You know, a lot of it's probably like, history's wrote by the vicars, right? If these people were before the Romans, well, the Romans probably thought they were uncivilized. When the Romans came along, they probably just spread word, the Gauls, they're just these uncivilized hunter-gatherers and blah, 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 and then history goes wild with it.
C'est tout à fait exceptionnel.
Evidently, there are no wild animals in the Gauls' daily diet. The image passed on to school children for generations, that of the boorish hunter feasting on wild boar, now gives way to a different truth. In reality, the Gauls are farmers and breeders, similar to those who worked our fields less than a century ago. Domestic meats, legumes, grains, peas, and other ingredients very similar to ours can be found on their menus. This begs the question, did the Gauls like us also have a science for cooking?
I mean, people love food. I'm sure they had
Culinary
some recipes.
reenactor Anne Flouest is trying to answer this question.
On n'a pas retrouvé de recettes gauloises. Les menus que l'on peut reconstituer sont des recettes vraisemblables qu'une Gauloise aurait pu faire. Une Gauloise, quand elle prépare des lentilles, on peut les cuire à l'eau ou au lait. On les a jamais fait en brochette, même à l'époque gauloise. Donc, on n'est pas loin de la vérité.
True.
The Gauls left us no written description of how they prepared their meals. The mystery would have remained if Anne Flouest had not had the idea to examine their cooking vessels with the help of the latest analytical techniques.
Okay, yeah.
Il y a des données aujourd'hui très précises apportées par la chimie organique et de tous les ingrédients qui se piègent, tous les éléments qui se piègent dans les céramiques. Les céramiques gauloises sont poreuses, donc on peut analyser aussi bien les sucres ou au contraire les matières grasses.
Yeah.
Déterminer si la cuisine a été faite avec de la graisse de mouton ou au contraire avec la graisse du saindoux de porc. Ça, c'est attesté aujourd'hui grâce à ces techniques-là qui sont très pointues.
I agree, yeah.
According to researchers, there is evidence that the Gauls were fond of large banquets. Tonight, the meats are turning on the spit. The soups are reducing in the cooking pots. The Gauls are ready to have a feast. Although there are no recipe books, ancient texts inform us of a range of Gallic banquets and their proceedings.
Oh, okay.
Posidonios Dampame, a Greek author from the 1st century BC, has left us with some valuable evidence.
What's he got to say about it?
During the banquets, guests sit on hay or on branches placed on the ground. Seated like this, the feasts can go on forever. While they eat, the Gauls form a circle symbolizing the solidarity of the group. Soldiers position themselves in a separate circle behind the lords, but they are also seated. This privilege marks the high regard they are held in. Slaves serve out the food and drink. Everyone drinks from the same cup.
They know
Ancient
about germs.
texts written by Greek and Roman chroniclers serve as a major source for archaeologists studying the Gallic civilization. Julius Caesar's famous commentaries on the Gallic wars, written during his campaigns between 58 and 52 BC, are particularly indispensable. In his account, Caesar speaks of several oppidum. The fortified towns he invaded and besieged. One name is repeated several times, the oppidum of Bibracte.
And the thing is, though, is Julius Caesar was an enemy of the Gauls, right? Like, he was trying to take over the territory to expand the Roman Empire or something. So he probably wouldn't have good things to say about the Gauls anyways. Usually you don't say good things about your enemies, right? I mean...
In the middle of the 19th century, one archaeology enthusiast spent a long time searching for this mythic place, only to discover that it had been buried beneath this mysterious forest at the top of the Morvan for 2 millennia. We are at the top of the Beauvrais Mount, where in 1867 Jacques-Gabriel Bouliot discovered the first remains of the oppidum of Bibracte. Today, his successor, Vincent Guichard, has taken over his research.
Okay, what's there?
au milieu du 19e siècle, on voyait les remparts sous forme d'un talus, l'éboulement du rempart. Et on voyait très très bien que le mur se retournait ici. Donc là, très vite, Buliot a trouvé la base du parement. C'est-à-dire qu'on avait à peu près 1 mètre de pierre.
So they started uncovering some of it then, huh? So it was overgrown because the Romans probably destroyed it, more than likely, right?
Du parement qui était conservé, et il s'est rendu compte qu'il y avait des manques. Alors les manques correspondaient à des poutres qui avaient pourri, qui sont, vous voyez, incrustées dans le parement, et qui se raccordaient à d'autres poutres qui étaient parallèles au parement, donc une grille, en fait une armature, un peu comme du béton armé, mais là on a affaire à de la terre qui est armée, non pas avec de la ferraille, mais avec des poutres de bois. Ce qui est extraordinaire, c'est que cette technique de construction est tellement bizarre que César prend le temps, de façon détaillée, d'expliquer ces remparts gaulois, ces murus gallicus, comme il dit, avec cette armature de bois.
Really? They're probably sticking out farther than that, though.
But this is usually the form of all the Gallic walls. Straight beams connected lengthwise and 2 feet distant from each other at equal intervals are placed together on the ground. These are mortised on the inside and covered with plenty of earth. The intervals which we have mentioned are closed up in front by large stones.
Okay, I see. It's a thick wall.
Caesar's commentaries reveal that he was very impressed with this type of defense system.
Yeah.
The stone rampart prevents from any fire damage, whereas the solidly attached wooden framework protects against the knocks of the battering ram. In Caesar's eyes, the Gauls became ingenious builders.
I'd say so. Especially for the time period, jeez.
Beyond the Murus Gallicus, Jacques-Gabriel Bouliot makes one of the most significant archaeological discoveries of the 19th century. He progressively modernizes a Gallic city. This densely urbanized city spreads out over dozens of hectares.
What does this mean? What does it mean he modernized it? Uncovered it, brought it back to life? I don't know.
We meet Pierre Nouvel's archaeological team. They are working on a site known as the Horse Park. Certain evidence leads them to believe that the Gauls were capable of monumental architectural feats, almost on par with their Greco-Roman neighbors.
Alors on a coutume d'imaginer que les Gaulois n'avaient pas la possibilité de construire des monuments énormes, une grande architecture telle qu'on en connaît dans le monde méditerranéen. En réalité, on a ici la preuve qu'on a une construction réfléchie en amont, planifiée par des populations. Alors évidemment, c'est moins monumental qu'à Rome parce que ici, c'est pas construit en maçonnerie, c'est construit à partir de poteaux en bois. Alors on distingue ici cet alignement de trous qui sont en fait les négatifs de poteaux disparus depuis longtemps d'un immense bâtiment gaulois qui faisait près de 50 mètres de côté avec des alignements de poteaux, plus de 100 poteaux en chaîne qui forment un espèce d'immense préau avec une cour centrale.
The materials were gathered up here and a large construction, a public work, was planned out over several years. The main function of this type of building is a mystery that researchers are still trying to solve. Archaeologists have the most recent discoveries from the oppidum at their disposal, and the information gathered at Bibracte, the oppidum spreading over 200 hectares, is particularly useful. The oppidum of Bibracte is surrounded by a rampart measuring several kilometers, and it houses many buildings relating to crafts and trade.
It's just the whole top of that mountain area, or that hilltop area.
At the turn of the 2nd century BC, the oppidum are significant in number. More than 100 of these fortified cities form a network within the Gallic territory. The carefully collected and recorded observations of Jacques-Gabriel Bouliot, the discoverer of Bibracte, allow his successor Joseph Deschelette to make a surprising discovery about the geographical distribution of the oppidum.
The geographical distribution? Oh, so like stuff that left that place and went other places in the world, like, so their trade network kind of thing, maybe?
Voilà, une image qui est finalement une synthèse de ce qu'a été la démarche de Deschelette, qui est une démarche comparatiste, qui s'appuie beaucoup plus sur les objets que sur l'architecture, parce que c'était plus facile à étudier, et qui monte sur les exemples de Bibracte, donc en Bourgogne, de Stradonice qui est en Bohême, de Manching, qui est en Bavière, et de Wilhelmshaven, qui est en Hongrie, avec quelques exemples. L'identité de cette culture matérielle qui démontre très clairement que les gens qui habitaient ces oppida avaient la même culture partagée.
It is a huge discovery. The oppidum concept.
Did they share the same culture, or is it just because of trade networks and just like nowadays, people from all different cultures use the same kind of things? Like, you know, we figured out how a hammer works, so we just make hammers that way. So could it just be like people traveling through, got some stuff, then they say, oh, this is nice, so we're going to just make our stuff like this too because it's effective? Does it necessarily mean it was connected to the exact same culture? I don't know. Not quite sure on that one.
Avaient la même culture partagée.
It is a huge discovery. The oppidum concept, born in Gaul, quickly branches out over a large part of Celtic Europe. An entire oppidum civilization is created, stretching out to the edge of the Black Sea. Pierre Nouvel's team continues their meticulous excavation work on the horse park site at the oppidum of Bibracte. The debris of various amphorae are the most commonly discovered objects across all of the oppidum.
I used to want to be an archaeologist.
Archaeologists quickly come to the conclusion that these amphorae were not produced in Gaul because the Gauls did not grow vines. But in that case, where did their wine come from?
Les grands crus de l'Italie romaine sont localisés entre Rome et Naples, dans le Latium et la Campanie. Et on trouve parfois certains tessons d'amphores qui comportent des petites paillettes d'obsidienne du Vésuve qui proviennent de cette région-là, donc du vin de qualité supérieure.
Okay.
En tout cas, du vin d'assez bonne qualité. Mais la majorité des tessons qui m'environnent ont une pâte rouge ponctuée de points blancs qui est, elle, tout à fait caractéristique de la région de Pise, de Florence. Et là, on a affaire à des vignobles qui sont beaucoup moins réputés. C'est plutôt un vignoble d'exportation de masse qui a été créé justement en grande partie pour répondre à ces demandes gauloises. On est au plus près des marchés d'exportation puisqu'on est pratiquement au nord de l'Italie. Et c'est ce vin qu'on retrouve en quantité écrasante sur les sites de Gaule intérieure.
Ships able to transport up to 10,000 amphorae left Italy to cross the Mediterranean. Their cargo was unloaded at the port of Massilia, which is now known as Marseille. Back then, it was under Roman domination. Then the amphorae were transported in two main directions. The first went around the Massif Central from the west to reach Aquitaine. The other traveled up to the Rhône Valley to supply the oppidum in the center and the north of Gaul.
So there was trade back and forth between the Romans
With such
and
a
the Gauls.
considerable number of amphorae consistently appearing on the excavation sites, researchers have been asking themselves if the Gauls really were fond of their drink. Many ancient accounts suggest this was not the case. According to specialists, the Gauls primarily drink to commemorate important events in the tribe, when honoring guests, forming alliances, or holding war councils.
I mean, they
We
say
are
that,
in the
but
year 52 BC.
they say that, but there was probably some people just drinking it for fun, just like nowadays, because why not? It's just evidence doesn't prove it. There's just, of course, they're only going to keep records of like celebrations, right? Like, why would they prove that you went out on a Tuesday night with your friends? Like, you wouldn't have a reason to keep a record of that, right?
Tonight, a banquet has been organized in honor of the leaders of the neighboring tribes. This is a crucial moment in which the next moves in the raging war in Gaul are to be discussed. In the 6 years that the Limovis have been fighting alongside the Romans, they have not reaped a single benefit. If they decide to desert, the Xantones and the Pictones, two other loyal Roman allies, are ready to join them. Tonight, the alliance against Caesar is on the verge of an upheaval.
Okay, so they were friends, so they were alliances, so they were friends with the Romans, I think, but they're getting ready to not be.
Alliance against Caesar is on the verge of an upheaval.
Are they saying Hail Caesar? So they are friends of the Romans. I'm not
Our
sure.
investigation takes a new turn. According to scientists, this is the most documented period of the Gallic Wars. Lots of clues, historical sites, and remains have been found. Caesar's own account is also crucial. But how much credit should be granted to Caesar's account, since he too was a conqueror and a main actor in the drama?
Yeah.
Over time,
exactly.
researchers have learned how to decode the subjective nature of his commentaries. For example, when he declares in the first line, "All Gaul is divided into 3 parts, one of which the Belgae inhabit, the Aquitani another, and those who in their own language are called Celts, and in ours Gauls, the third."
Celts, huh? The Brittany region?
Since
Probably.
Gaul is composed of a mosaic of different populations, commercial exchange forms the pedestal of this prosperous geographical entity. In the northeast of Gaul, in the Mediomatrici territory, researchers have uncovered irrefutable evidence of the trading rituals between the different tribes. Approximately 30 kilometers from Nancy, along the Say Valley, we find the Marcel excavation site, one of the most extraordinary sites from the European Iron Age. Here, the
Okay.
Mediomatrici people benefited from an impressive source of wealth, a subject of intense trade, and a product that has been imperative to the survival of man since ancient times: salt.
Oh, the
On
salt
est sur une
mines.
fouille de site de production
Yeah.
du sel de l'époque gauloise, donc aux alentours du 1er siècle avant Jésus-Christ. Et la particularité de cette fouille, c'est qu'on est dans un endroit où affleure de la saumure, de l'eau chargée en sel qu'on voit ici dans notre fouille, hein, c'est cette eau un peu grisâtre.
Once
Yeah, they still
again,
do that.
experimental archaeology allows for an accurate reconstruction of the same salt oven that was used by the Mediomatrici tribe. In large pots, the brine is heated to saturating point until it is covered with a layer of pure salt. Then the calibrated earthenware cups are placed over a clay grid, and the salt paste inside them is boiled. Once the heating is finished, the cups are broken open to recover the precious salt molds so that they can be exported. They are all the same size and thus the same value.
Okay.
The Marcel excavation site is a key resource for researchers. Considerable volumes of salt mold debris continue to be found here. Proof
That's super cool. So they're finding the molds. I wonder if they're finding like chunks of salt that was made in the molds. That'd be super cool.
of the Gauls' industrial activity.
What's that?
Le sel aujourd'hui, ça n'a plus beaucoup de valeur, mais c'est quelque chose d'absolument essentiel pour la conservation des aliments, l'alimentation du bétail et un peu l'alimentation humaine. Or ici, on est à 400 km des côtes, à 400 km de toute source d'approvisionnement en sel. Celui qui contrôle ça, c'est comme aujourd'hui le pétrole, c'est une matière première essentielle à la vie de tout le monde. Et donc il l'échange ou il le vend à la valeur qu'il veut. La présence d'une ressource comme celle-là, ça amène l'apparition d'aristocraties qui ont des niveaux de richesse et des niveaux de pouvoir économique aussi qui sont supérieurs à ceux de leurs voisins.
Yeah, and a very rich.
One thing is for certain, conditioning the salt into these molds was so simple that for centuries the Gauls used this resource as their reference standard for trade. Then,
Really?
around the 3rd century BC, coinage dethroned the salt trade. The large number of coins found at various excavation sites confirms this.
Oh, is this how they're making? That's cool. Wow.
Gallic currency specialist Eniko Hiriat studies the impressive collection of Gallic objects at the Museum of Saint-Germain-en-Laye in the hope of finding out how currency was introduced in Gaul.
La fin du XIIe siècle va marquer un tournant économique. On assiste là aussi à un boom économique majeur, avec une évolution aussi dans les modes d'habitat. Les habitats groupés d'un genre nouveau, les oppidas apparaissent, qui vont drainer les pouvoirs, les richesses. Au milieu du 1er siècle avant notre ère, donc avec la guerre des Gauls, la conquête de César, là aussi, on assiste à un accroissement considérable de la masse monétaire. des monnaies sont frappées de plus belles, avec notamment des chefs célèbres qui vont émettre des monnaies à leur nom, et notamment le chef le plus célèbre d'entre tous, Vercingetorix.
Huh.
With the emergence of Vercingetorix as a new leader respected by a majority of tribes, the uprising of Gaul against the Romans seems closer than ever before. Each village now has to produce a quota of their funds. Workshops fabricate numerous weapons, and carpenters are tasked with the manufacture of shields.
Okay.
Their means of fabrication is highly inventive. An interlacing of thin strips of poplar wood is assembled using a fish-based glue. The finished product must be light enough to assure the combatant a high level of mobility while simultaneously providing enough resistance against the opponent's hardest hits. Nowadays, it is nearly impossible to find proof of these achievements. Over time, the wood has degraded almost to the point of disappearing. Nevertheless, some rare exceptions still exist in Switzerland near Neuchâtel, a unique site in Europe. Here, the humid environments have facilitated the discovery of a significant quantity of exceptionally preserved objects.
Oh, and they got old
Alongside
shields?
Marc-Antoine Kayser, we go in search of the remains which are said to prove the astounding technicality of the Gauls' woodwork.
All right, let's go.
Ce pont, en fait, c'est la reconstitution expérimentale d'un pont celtique, d'un pont gaulois qui a été découvert au-dessus d'une rivière qui se trouve pas loin d'ici. En fait, ce qu'on voit, c'est tout un système de poutraison avec un tablier mobile qui est posé par-dessus. Il faut se l'imaginer beaucoup plus long, c'est-à-dire que là, on a un petit bout d'un pont qui, à l'origine, faisait pratiquement 100 mètres de long et qui enjambait une rivière au bout du lac de Neuchâtel. C'est une découverte qui remonte au milieu du 19e siècle. Et on est en 1857, un matin de novembre, et on a un pêcheur qui fait, on va dire, des prospections archéologiques et qui voit sous l'eau des restes de pieux en bois qui sont, on va dire, les fondations d'un pont celtique. Et parmi ces pieux, il met au jour des épées, des poings.
So the Celts and the Gauls. So the Gauls came from the Celts, right? I'm pretty sure, and that's why there's so much Celtic ancestry in like the Brittany region of France.
De lance, des objets de parure.
This miraculous discovery is a decisive one for the scientific community. It is now the main point of reference for European Celtic archaeology. To fully appreciate the exceptional state of preservation of the objects found at Latène, Marc-Antoine Kayser takes us into the reserves of the Latenium, an area where the atmosphere is artificially stabilized.
I want to see the stuff.
The perfect condition of this Gallic oxbow, the quality of its workmanship, and its ergonomics reveal the standards farmers worked by until the first half of the 20th century.
Wow.
How is this possible? Scientists give us an astonishing response.
That's nice.
On est au sommet de la technique, on a atteint un sommet de la technique. Et c'est d'autant plus intéressant que la boissellerie et la charonnerie sont des métiers où les artisans gaulois excellaient. On le sait par des témoignages de sources antiques, latines, romaines, mais on le sait aussi par le fait que les termes techniques pour la charonnerie, typiquement le mot char, est un mot d'origine celtique. Donc on voit que le latin a repris des mots celtes, des mots gaulois, parce que c'est eux qui avaient, on va dire, l'expertise technique, un peu comme aujourd'hui. En informatique, on utilise des termes anglais parce que c'est des choses qui ont été inventées dans la Silicon Valley. Donc là, on a vraiment les œuvres des grands experts internationaux qui sont des artisans gaulois.
Heck yeah.
The discovery from Latène is truly fundamental. These objects revolutionized the view of Gallic craftsmanship. We return to the village of the Lemovies. Here, farmers and their families own objects that are produced directly on site for a cheaper price. To make ceramics, clay is extracted locally and then skillfully shaped by hand. In the domestic sphere, weaving is a delicate and time-consuming activity for the production of clothing.
It's cool. The way she was weaving the...
Occasionally, the farmer also takes on the role of a blacksmith in order to make and prepare all the tools he requires. Sickles, knives, hooks, chisels, and spearheads are shaped using iron ingots that were produced from a local tradesman. Aside from that, an anvil, a hammer, and pliers are all he needs.
Was he only quenching the edge? I'm confused what he was doing.
Were these ingenious...
Been watching a lot of blacksmith videos lately, and I don't know what this guy's doing there, but I'm not a blacksmith, so whatever.
An anvil, a hammer, and pliers are all he needs.
Didn't seem like a right
Were these
way to quench.
ingenious Gallic craftsmen also creators? Excavations have revealed that the oppidum are filled with specialized workshops where valuables are produced. Precious vases are luxuriously decorated, whereas the jewelry attests to a breathtaking mastery of goldsmithery. These objects reflect the subtle taste of the Gauls, a nation unfairly considered as incapable of accomplishing such artistic feats. In 1862, Viollet-le-Duc gazed upon this discovery from Amfreville, a helmet adorned with gold leaves, and saw a work that was too delicate to have belonged to the Gallic civilization. Today, it is one of the main emblems of Gallic art.
Well, it's just crazy that, like, I mean, it's like, it's hard to do that stuff back then, right? But they did. They went the extra mile, and they went ahead and just adorned stuff with crazy cool looking stuff. It's just incredible. And like nowadays, you know, they definitely have technology to do that nowadays, but no, everything nowadays is basic. Nothing's adorned like that.
In the 3rd century BC, a considerable change occurs. The artists start to use their currency as a means to exhibit their creative talents.
Cela apparaît notamment au niveau du cheval, qui est un élément récurrent sur les monnaies gauloises, où chacun des peuples, chacune des cités, chacune des entités émettrices va avoir sa propre représentation, sa propre interprétation du cheval. Ici, nous avons une évocation très claire avec une monnaie des Sotiates, où le cheval est décomposé en différents éléments géométriques, des traits et des globules. Nous avons également la monnaie des Parisis, avec ce cheval qui est disloqué, avec ce filet au-dessus, et le cheval qui est entouré de nombreux symboles.
The analysis of the horse motifs engraved on coins from all over Celtic Europe put researchers on the trail of a whole new discovery. Archaeologists found the same stylized horses on coins originating from different excavation sites. It is impossible to imagine the extent of this dispersion without attesting to the existence of specific Gallic trade routes. A considerable road network had to link the Celtic territories together even before the Gallic Wars.
On attribue souvent aux Romains l'aménagement du réseau routier en Gaule, du réseau viaire, et ce n'est que partiellement vrai. Il existait déjà en Gaule, comme nous le disent les textes antiques, des voies, mais des voies qui étaient plus à l'échelle locale, à l'échelle des 60 cités qui composaient la Gaule de cette époque, qu'on pourrait comparer grosso modo à notre réseau de voies communales départementales actuelles, alors que les Romains, eux, ont aménagé l'équivalent de nos routes nationales ou de nos autoroutes.
Well, yeah, roads. Been
Caesar proves the importance of the road network in Gaul. Wherever he goes, he finds new roads and progresses faster than before. An army composed of several thousand men seized the Orléans. Ever the strategist, Caesar profits from his intervention by maintaining his army and progressively occupying the whole of the Gaul under the pretext of pacifying the land. For 6 years, the presence of Roman legions provokes a succession of battles based on the varying alliances and betrayals of the different Gallic tribes against their Roman occupier.
I wanted to see
One
those
day, a
shields.
young Gallic leader changes everything.
On a
It didn't show us the shields they were talking about that they pulled out of that peat bog, but I guess that's cool, whatever. I just really wanted to see a couple 1,000-year-old wooden sword, or wooden shields.
One day, a young Gallic leader changes everything.
On est à l'hiver 53-52 avant Jésus-Christ, il y a un changement complet de stratégie qui est impulsé par Vercingetorix. C'est ce qu'on appellerait aujourd'hui un acte terroriste. Les carnyx massacrent les trafiquants romains qui sont établis à Orléans, Cénabum. Donc il y a un double message qu'adresse aux Romains, c'est un, plus aucun Romain ne sera en sécurité en Gaule, qu'il soit militaire ou qu'il soit civil, et deux, désormais, c'est plus la guerre comme vous l'avez connue, c'est la guerre totale jusqu'à ce que les Romains aient évacué la Gaule.
Okay. So the Gauls definitely were fighting the Romans, for sure.
Alors César est d'abord surpris de cette action, il s'y attendait absolument pas à ce massacre, et surtout il est surpris par la vitesse à laquelle l'information se propage dans toute la résistance gauloise. Et ça, il l'écrit directement dans ses commentaires de la guerre des Gaules.
The news spreads to all of the Gallic cities with great speed. The details of what happened at Cénabum at dawn reaches Arverni by end of the day, having traveled a distance of almost 160 miles.
Jeez.
240 kilometers in only a few hours. Scientists believe that relay points were set up at strategic points over regular intervals. The news of the uprising reaches the village of the Lamovies. Any illegible
Yeah, they definitely had relay points for sure. And it would be a visual signal, maybe mirrors or something to where, oh yeah, they had networks. Yeah, there's a name for them. I don't remember what they're called, but.
Scientists believe that relay points were set up at strategic points over regular intervals. The news of the uprising reaches the village of the Lamovies. Any eligible soldier leaves to join the troops spread along the Allier in the direction of Gergovia. It is here in the heart of the Massif Central that the resistance command center, led by Vercingetorix, is based.
Vercingetorix a compris qu'il ne faut pas mener la guerre comme on l'a fait jusqu'alors. On n'a pas l'avantage parce qu'il n'y a pas l'artillerie dont disposent les Romains, et donc il faut livrer une guérilla. Et dans la guérilla, l'idée c'est d'affamer les Romains, il faut qu'ils ne trouvent rien pour nourrir ni les troupes ni les animaux. Et puis surtout, sa stratégie, ça va être de les attirer, sa stratégie du marteau et de l'enclume, c'est de les attirer à Gergovie pour les écraser depuis l'extérieur.
The use of well-thought-out military strategies contradicts the widespread notion that the Gauls are nothing more than a disorganized horde. Caesar mentions this in his commentaries. On the military front, the Gauls' organization was rigorous, and their logistics were flawless.
Yeah.
The Gauls used sophisticated weaponry and equipment in battle. Archaeologists have proof of this, thanks to the remains found on a significant number of the excavation sites.
Those are some nice swords. Look at the handles on that. Nice.
The most
Very
striking
cool.
example is the chainmail fabricated by the Gallic craftsmen. This technical feat dates back to the end of the 4th century BC. The bodily protection made using thousands of forged and assembled rings is very effective. It progressively spreads throughout the whole of Celtic Europe.
Wow. So the Gauls and the Celts, so the Gauls made the chainmail. And Celtic, so the Gauls is a tribe of Celts. And then, so Celts were in Ireland, Scotland probably, like, wow.
According to ancient texts, the Gauls are vicious warriors, feared by the different populations of the Mediterranean, and especially by the Romans. This fear is established several centuries before the outbreak of the Gallic Wars. But on which historical grounds is this reputation based on?
Il y a deux moments qui sont vraiment des moments forts, des moments clés dans l'histoire de l'Antiquité. C'est au début du IVe siècle, où les Gaulois descendent sur Rome, pillent Rome. Et puis un siècle plus tard, donc au début du IIIe siècle, ils vont en Grèce, dans le nord de la Grèce, et ils vont même saccager le sanctuaire de Delphes. Donc ça va être des traumatismes pour la civilisation romaine,
Wow.
pour la Grèce hellénistique. En fait, sont confrontés à ces guerriers gaulois par des épisodes vraiment traumatisants pour eux. Donc ça va rester durablement dans les esprits et ça va marquer aussi la vision qu'on a des Gaulois dans les sociétés méditerranéennes, c'est-à-dire de dangereux pillards qui sont capables de venir jusque chez nous. Il faut voir que Rome, c'est quand même une ville qui n'a été atteinte qu'une seule fois.
Only to this day, Rome, the city, has only been attacked once. Was it the Gaul? I mean, obviously the Gauls, but is that the only time? Wow. Or is it saying like up to this point in the story we're talking about? Incredible.
Few accounts detailing the Gauls' true conduct in war have survived. The Gundustrup cauldron, found in 1891 in a peat bog in Scandinavia, gives us a rare insight. On the inner face of this unique object, a collection of scenes have been engraved and chiseled to represent an initiation ritual. The change in status of a young soldier as he becomes a knight. Several details have caught researchers' attention. Firstly, these strange and impressively large horns. Secondly, these helmets adorned with disproportionate ornaments. For a long time, archaeologists only had the descriptions of these objects made by Diodorus Siculus in the 1st century BC. Did they actually exist?
Evidently.
In 2004, an incredible discovery came to light, allowing scientists to give a definitive answer to this question.
They
A
found
collection
helmet.
of the Gallic warriors' most sacred objects resurfaced in a place of worship in Tondinac, in
Is that one of the
Corrèze, and all of them had been miraculously preserved.
Is that one of the horns?
Their restoration is still underway and is led by a team of specialists.
Wow.
The operation is supervised by the archaeologist responsible for the original discovery, Christophe Maniquet.
C'est une des découvertes exceptionnelles de ces dernières années. Alors, on dégage en surface. Déjà, il a fallu définir les dimensions du trésor. Et en fait, on a une petite fosse d'1,10 m de côté qui s'est avérée être profonde de 30 cm seulement et dans laquelle on avait une multitude d'objets, de fragments d'objets, principalement en fer et en bronze.
The excitement generated by this rare discovery, a holy grail of archaeology, was recorded by scientists so that it could last forever.
2000 ans d'histoire.
Ah là là.
2000 ans qu'il a été là.
That looks like one of those horns.
Oh là là.
Or the top of it.
At present, Christophe Maniquet's team is busy reconstructing a trumpet shaped like a wild boar's head. The animal is a symbol of power and courage for the Gallic people.
Alors, je dis, ouais, ça, on va le mettre ici. Alors, mets-la bien à angle droit.
Ouais, comme ça.
Ouais. Ensuite.
Gradually, under their capable hands, the object is brought back to life in its original form.
Yeah.
Là, tu laisses un vide. Voilà. Ouais. Alors ça, c'est le fameux carnyx, c'est la trompette de guerre gauloise. Une grande trompette de guerre gauloise qui fait près de 2 mètres de hauteur, qui a la particularité d'avoir un pavillon en forme de gueule d'animal grande ouverte. Et en fait, le but de ces instruments, c'était d'impressionner lors de l'assaut guerrier. Donc, il faut imaginer les joueurs de carnyx qui le tenaient comme ça en position verticale au-dessus de leur bouche. Donc, vous imaginez quelque chose d'assez rutilant, très haut, très impressionnant, avec des oreilles démesurées de chaque côté et qui fait, selon Polybe et Diodore, donc un bruit impressionnant qui arrive à faire trembler le sol et la forêt alentour. Et le but, c'était vraiment ça pour les Gaulois, c'était d'impressionner.
Why don't they recreate it? Like literally not just put it together and see what it looked like. Recreate it, 3D print it, however you have to do it, and blow air through that sucker and see how loud it is, right? Like that would be cool.
Avant l'attaque.
Although the profile of the Gallic warrior seemed quite set in stone, a recent discovery has shed light on an unexpected connection between the spheres of war and religion in the Gallic community. To learn more about the subtle nuances in the Gallic belief system, we must return to the Courant Oppidum. In the center of it, a worship space of considerable dimensions has been constructed. Archaeologist Mathieu Pou has been studying the sanctuary for almost 15 years.
Okay.
These bones were suspended in garlands or hung on the walls of the ritual buildings.
Oh, it's like a giant courtyard thing.
There is another surprising discovery inside the sanctuary. It has 4 caverns. Archaeologists are currently working on an explanation for their use. The Coran Sanctuary, situated at the heart of the Averni people's ancient capital, is still far from revealing all of its secrets.
That's cool. Wonder what this road is off that angle.
A few kilometers away at the top of the Oppidum of Gergovia, Vercingetorix Gallic coalition wins a historic battle. In the year 52 BC, the prior invincibility of the Roman legions was shattered. However, the victory left a sour taste in the mouths of the Lemovis who fought in the battle. Tonight, the warriors prepare to pay one last tribute to their deceased leader. The Gauls offer their loved ones a form of eternity through cremation. This practice came after burials in the 3rd century BC. According to scientists, cremation takes place outside. The ashes and the remains of the bones are recovered and placed in an urn, which is buried afterwards in a funeral pit. Archaeologists have found dozens of them.
Probably because dead bodies
Even
laying
Caesar
around,
was impressed by the
dead bodies laying around would cause disease and stuff. So that's probably why they're trying, cremating is just the best way to go about it to not spread disease from a rotting body and stuff, I would assume.
Even Caesar was impressed by these types of ceremonies. He described them as lavish. These ceremonies were conducted under the iron rule of the most superior person in the social hierarchy, an intermediary between man and the gods, known as the Druid. Druids closely guarded the secrets of their wisdom.
Okay.
This allowed them to seize the religious sphere and turn it into an instrument of power.
Alors visiblement, c'est une caste qui est séparée du reste de la société et surtout, ce sont des intellectuels en fait, qui ont une formation intellectuelle qui dure plusieurs dizaines d'années. Il y a l'idée que le savoir, c'est quelque chose qui est réservé à une élite, c'est quelque chose qui n'est pas destiné à être partagé. C'est une connaissance très très pointue. Et il y a cette idée que le savoir doit être su par cœur, il doit être su intellectuellement. Et donc il y a un rapport ambigu avec l'écriture.
The writing ban imposed by the Druids is at the root of one of the biggest enigmas faced by the archaeological community. Gallic texts are still extremely rare and fragmented.
Because if you hold if you hold the knowledge, you hold the power. If you keep knowledge away from the people, you keep power away from the people. That's how it goes. Still how it goes today even. Regardless of how transparent the government says they are, they're not. We know this.
The other reason behind the disappearance of the Gallic culture is down to historical events. In the year 52 BC, a few months after the victory at Gergovia, Vercingetorix's army loses the Battle of Alesia against Caesar's troops. Woe to the defeated! In the space of a few decades, the Roman conquest Latinizes the Gallic community to the point of almost completely erasing it.
L'archéologie a permis de donner de la chair à ces peuples très anciens en montrant comment ils avaient utilisé le territoire où nous vivons aujourd'hui, comment ils l'avaient modelé, comment ils avaient utilisé ces ressources. Donc tout ce qui fait une civilisation, en fait. Civilisation qui est très développée du point de vue agricole, très développée du point de vue technique. L'archéologie a montré que ces peuples d'il y a 2500 ans, 2000 ans, avaient joué un rôle déterminant dans l'aménagement du territoire dans lequel nous vivons aujourd'hui, ce territoire qui porte encore en grande partie l'héritage de cette période très ancienne.
Our investigation into
I'll be right back.
the discovery of the Gallic civilization is coming to an end. Scientists continue their search into the secrets of their history. They hope to finally break the wall of silence behind which the Gauls have been locked away, depriving the world of an essential part of its history.
Why is there lines and grids going across this? I don't know what that is. Okay, that's the end of it. So, I think all history is wrong, really. I mean, history is written by the people that win, right? And then, of course, when, like what they were saying, you know, the Romans defeated them, they go in, well, they Romanized that entire area. So they're going to destroy everything from these savage beasts or so-called savage beasts. Like, you know, that's just how it goes. All history is wrong. I mean, not all of it, but like a lot of it is unknown, and we'll never know, honestly. I mean, all you can do is go by evidence and speculate and this and that, but it's interesting, of course. But yeah, it's really cool. You guys have a super fun, awesome day. Thanks for watching with me, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care, bye.